More hospitals, more doctors, more money. All part of the latest push to clean up what's become more of a mess every day, the VA. But maybe we should be talking to these guys, veterans. Today, we will. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. Independent Senator Bernie Sanders set to introduce emergency legislation as early as tomorrow to pump up the funding in a bid to provide better care for veterans. But with spending on VA medical care up nearly 40% in the last 5 years alone, is more money the answer? To Capitol Hill senior producer Chad Pergram, where the Senate is back and the scramble is on. Chad.
Yeah, we're going to be hearing a lot about this bill and another bill that Republicans in the Senate are going to offer tomorrow as well. This has been jammed up here for a couple of weeks. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid came to the Senate floor when the Senate came back today and said, look, he endorses the Sanders piece of legislation. He says it's a good piece of legislation, and Republicans don't want to pay for these things. He says there is a cost of democracy, a cost when we go to war. He says Republicans wanted to go to war on a credit card in Iraq, and now there are the consequences. So cost is going to be a big factor in this. There are also competing factions here where the House of Representatives in mid-May passed a veterans bill. This would give the VA the ability to lay off or fire these executives who they don't think are doing the job. Bernie Sanders has some concerns about that. He says it could create wholesale political firings. When the House had passed this just a couple of weeks ago, Neil, Marco Rubio, Republican senator, freshman from Florida, came to the floor and tried to, on the spot, via unanimous consent, pass the House bill. Bernie Sanders objected. Now, Republicans said, look, this is an effort by the Democrats to block this piece of legislation. Really what happens is the Senate, when you want to pass something by unanimous consent, you go through the committee process, or you go through what we call the hotline, where they check in with all the senators and say, would you be okay with this? That did not happen in that instance. But I'll tell you, that piece of legislation from the House remains an option because it is unclear if the Sanders bill can get past that supermajority threshold to get the bill up on the floor. And that's what they're going to be talking about this week, Neil.
All right, Chad, thank you very much, Chad Pergram. Well, if I got more spending, to hear Montel Williams tell it, it's the bonuses of the spending on them. That's the problem.
If there was a system that's set up to give you a bonus because you looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our fallen, then the system is a mess. There should never be a bonus for that. It's your obligation.
So is it time to scrap bonuses, period? Let's ask J.R. Martinez. He was severely injured in Iraq. Now he helps other burn victims. Retired Colonel Danny McKnight with us as well. Danny, of course, the inspiration for the film Black Hawk Down. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you. It's an honor.
Thank you, Neil.
J.R., to you first. What do you think of what Montel was saying, that it's the organization itself that needs to be sort of ripped from its roots and done over again? What do you think?
I completely agree with Montel. Neil, it's great to be on again, and thanks for having me on. But I completely agree with Montel. I think he's absolutely right. I think that there is an attitude within the culture of the VA that has been there for years, and it stems back to before the Iraq and Afghanistan war. It goes back to the Vietnam War, and I think that a lot of that just needs to be pulled. I don't like the idea of bonuses in the VA, because essentially what you do is you give people the opportunity to start trying to find shortcuts in order for their own personal benefits. And these may be individuals that maybe have never served themselves. These are individuals that have never worn the uniform, don't understand the sacrifices, and don't understand the importance of getting the appointments to the veterans that deserve those appointments, that have earned them as well.
You know, Danny, a lot of people have said, including Montel, that is part of the problem, and not that these aren't, good-thinking folks who try to provide the care, but a lot of them have never served. They don't know or particularly appreciate what servicemen and women go through, so that we need more of that in the DNA of the VA. What do you make of that?
Oh, I totally agree. I think that the issue really is the people part of it. We need people there that understand what it means to take care of a veteran, and I think the better people to do that are the ones that have maybe served in some form or fashion, or at least had family members that were, so they have some kind of feeling about what it means to be a veteran and how important it is to take care of them. And I think the bottom line to all of that is we got to look at the leadership that exists in the VA. And I know General Shinseki is gone now, but that's not it's not about him. It's about the leadership from there all the way down in every hospital. There needs to be leaders that are making sure the right things are being done by those people that are going to take care of our veterans.
JR, you know and talk to a lot of your buddies and fellow service members. How do they feel about all of this? And do they feel that they're appreciated? Is it making them think twice about how committed their country is to them, to looking after them? What?
They feel completely unappreciated. They feel that their service, I mean, what was it for, in a sense? You know, a lot of them, you know, we're proud of the service that we've done for this country and for the freedom that we enjoy every single day, whether it's for ourselves and our families or just random strangers around the country. But they feel that the government is not appreciating their sacrifices. You know, Neil, I've had the opportunity for the last 10 years to be a guest on your show numerous times. And a year after my injury in 2003, I used to come onto your show and you would ask me, do I have any regrets? And I would honestly say to you, you know, I have no regrets at all. And I said that when I raised my right hand, I pretty much was taking that oath to go and fight for this country's freedom and believing that, you know what, they were going to be there to take care of me when I needed it. And there's a lot of these vets that are coming back that aren't getting that promise, that aren't getting that back-end support. And it makes them question, it makes them wonder. And I think what's going to end up happening is, you know, when I travel and I see a lot of families that say to me, my son, my daughter, my nephew, my niece are thinking about joining the military, can you tell them not to? And I never once said, I'm not going to say yes or I'm not going to say no, but I will tell you now that with all of this happening, more people are going to be less hesitant about joining our United States military, because they're going to say, well, if my son, if my daughter, if I'm going to be putting my life on the line, if something happens to me, which is a possibility, are they going to be there to take care of me on the back end when I need them?
Yeah, and that's been calling the question here. You know, Danny, one of the things that have been advanced, and I did take a look at the Bernie Sanders measure, there are some good ideas in there, including vouchers for servicemen and women who might be facing substantial delays within the VA system to just go across the street or the town or to another city to a traditional hospital where they can get the immediate care they need. I sometimes think that we can overthink solutions here, but that might be one very quick, good one, so that no service member, president or former, has to wait.
I totally agree. I don't think anybody should have to wait. I think there should be a process in the system that allows them to do what you just said. And I'll be honest with you, I've been out of the Army for 12 years now, and I haven't been to a VA hospital for anything yet. And the reason I'm sort of that way is, all honesty, I'm fairly healthy, for one thing. That's a good thing. But the other thing is, I feel like if I go, I'm taking up somebody's time and space, that a veteran that really needs the time and space to be taken care of. So I'll bide my time, and maybe one day I will. But otherwise, I'm willing to go across the street, and I use my insurance through TRICARE and things like that. So I'm okay with that. But everybody can't do that. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do it. But some people might need that kind of care. Like you said, go across the street. We need to provide that as part of the process. And when it comes to money, when I recently saw how much we pay people that work in the VA hospital in Phoenix, I was stunned. We could have hired 200 more people for the amount of money we're paying people out there, as an example.
You know, JR, I was thinking about Danny and what Black Hawk Down, and what was really, it was a goal originally to help feed people in a poor African country. Danny and his buddies get in the middle of an internal civil war. Soldiers are dragged through the street. It was a mess. So that was a lack of follow-through on the part of leadership. But now soldiers like yourselves are seeing a lack of follow-through in the care afterwards. I always say that whatever you say of various wars and conflicts, generally Americans of all stripes have the same high regard for the people who fought them and fight them. From what you were saying before, JR, do they feel that way now, or do they feel appreciated now, or do these allegations that come back and dozens of soldiers who might have died waiting for care make them think twice?
It does. It definitely does make you think twice. And listen, you know, there's a lot of gaps, and we've come a long way. I'm not going to sit here and say that we haven't made progress. And I mean that from the VA perspective. I mean that from just the military standpoint. I mean, we've made a lot of progress. We've gotten a lot of things right. When the things that were issues back in 2003 aren't issues today. You know, there's new issues. So yeah, there's some vets that kind of have this interesting feeling of feeling like, yeah, to some extent we're appreciated. But when you see like a friend of yours that is passing away, not because of an injury that he sustained that has kind of caught up to him and he can't keep fighting the fight, it's because he hasn't had the opportunity to get into a doctor's to see a physician, then it's like, well, you essentially just let our friend just sit there and just pass away, just kind of deal with this pain and ultimately, take his own life, or essentially the injury got the best of him. And I think that that's something that's really important. Neil, you look at me and the success that I've been able to kind of create for myself over the last few years, and people look at me and they use the word celebrity. They say that I'm famous, and I recently had this simple hip feeling that I had that was kind of a little pain, and I said I need to go to the doctor and kind of be looked at. And when they said that I needed to get an MRI, this was 4 months ago. They said the next available date would be in 4 months. So this is me not even being able to get an appointment, and it's for a simple MRI for a hip, just simple things that I have going on. What about the guys that really have some stuff that need to be looked at? As the Colonel alluded to, you don't want to essentially take that spot. So, I went and got TRICARE. I haven't had TRICARE since I got out of the Army because I'm 100%. So I was just going to the VA, and I've been fairly healthy. And I think that's another thing too, real quick, is that when I was in BAMC recovering here in San Antonio, Texas, for the nearly 3 years I was in a hospital, during that time, they were pretty adamant about, are you ready to go? Are you ready to go? Almost kind of, hey, let's kind of get you out, make room for the next patient that would potentially be coming from the conflicts overseas. Understood. I never jumped, and I never signed the paperwork quickly because I was ready to move on with my life, because I had heard the horror stories within the VA and how difficult it would be to get an appointment, how much time it would take, and how a lot of my friends who do have burns have gone to the VA for treatment, and they've gotten infections because they're not really trained 100%, no different than the VA, than the hospital here in San Antonio. So for me, I just say to a lot of the guys, listen, take advantage of the TRICARE. I know it's going to be a few extra bucks out of your pocket, but it's better, and it gives you an opportunity to go somewhere else outside the VA, to give you an option to just get in somewhere versus having to wait several months to get in.
Gentlemen, while I have you both here, and Danny, if you don't mind my raising this with you, this swap for this soldier with 5 Gitmo detainees, what do you think of it?
I think it's absolutely atrocious that we have decided that we should start negotiating to get somebody back. It's good. It's a great thing the young man's back and safe and sound, and all of that. But we've just given back 5 of the worst people, and we let them pick who they want. We don't negotiate. It's sort of like if Mike Durant, if we weren't leaving over there in Somalia without Mike Durant, we weren't going to negotiate. We're going to get him back, and that's what we have to do. And I'm not sure how this story is going to really turn out, Neil. It's very interesting, some of the things I've been reading.
All right, so let's talk that all the detainees are gutter, and we'll have to wait a year or more before they get to Afghanistan. That doesn't mean anything to you. They're still dangerous guys in a dangerous part of the world, and they could do us some harm.
Amen to that. I agree with that.
JR, thoughts?
I completely agree. I mean, there's this. You're happy for the young man, you're happy for the family, you're happy for his friends that get to have him home and have had a lot of questions of whatever happened to him. But it is something that it's almost in a sense, are we taking a step back? And we fought so hard to kind of eliminate, terrorism and these individuals that are in this position to create harm throughout the world. Are we now kind of taking a step back by allowing those individuals to be able to now be back in that world and to possibly plan something else, And, Neil, it's a really difficult mentality for a lot of people to understand, but I'm sure the Colonel can understand this, and those that are watching that have served in the military. When I was in Iraq, I was a young 19-year-old soldier, and I remember being in Iraq, and we were pretty much being trained on how to react to certain situations. And I remember them telling me, or us, our unit, or one of our sergeants, that it's better to lose 1 than lose 5. And when you look at this situation, I'm not saying that you want the young man to lose his life. It's better to forget him. I'm not saying that at all. I'm happy that he's home. I'm just saying in this case, are we possibly going to lose more because now you put 5 individuals that were detained? Are we now putting those individuals back on the street to cause harm to more individuals? So it's just something that it's hard for most of Americans to understand and most families to understand. I'm happy that he's home, but now are we now possibly going to lose other men because of those individuals?
Well put, JR. Danny, very good seeing you again. Gentlemen, thank you. And JR, you notice I never brought up Dancing with the Stars. I chose not to for this.
Well,
this interview?
Well, Neil, I'm thinking about, you always said to me that you get a lot of fan mail when I'm on, I should run for, get in politics. I may just do this after this whole VA fiasco.
Wow.
It needs to start happening. I think more vets
Not bad.
from the Iraq and Afghanistan conflict should be invested in it.
Well, that's a Fox News alert. JR, thank you. Danny, as always, thank you.
Always good
We'll have
seeing
more
you.
after this.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay.